We have entered into the derp zone, and as we'll be going over today's video, has Bitcoin seen the low of the month as of yesterday's print to the downside? Bitcoin coming back down ever so slightly below 60,000 bucks. Of course, major catalyst today, or at least a big catalyst today, coming in with PPI reads a little bit later. CPI yesterday was, it was a little bit hot, I guess, but ultimately we didn't really see anything in terms of price action. So the overall direction is still yet to be revealed, and I expect that today is probably going to be the one if you are looking for something, something to actually break the current range, as we'll be referring to the derp zone right here. This chart actually from yesterday on Twitter, which, by the way, I have to say, on Twitter, we just passed 100,000 subscribers. Holy shit. That's amazing. Welcome to all the community members on Twitter. I've been trying to be a little more, active there. Anyways, let's get into, of course, some daily price statistics, and then we'll actually pull in the whole holistic view that we've been looking at and kind of what to expect for today. So first things first, Friday has been a complete wash in terms of whether it is likely to close positively or negatively, literally 50% on both sides, a coin flips toss. However, what we're always interested in is those averages for those returns on both sides of the market, because they typically do mark off where we kind of expect the range to be. To the upside, returning about 2.5%. To the downside, losing about 2.25%, again on average. So taking it from today's open and adding that to the upside, 2.5% would put Bitcoin basically back at around 61,800. Not anything super, it doesn't really do anything for price action, still in the derp zone, unfortunately. To the downside, however, that is where actually things would potentially change. We can see here a 2.25% move to the downside on a closing basis would bring Bitcoin down below 58,950, which is a critical number, as we'll go into on the chart right here. The chart from yesterday. Hey, damn it, where is it? The chart from yesterday right here. That actually would bring Bitcoin to a new low on a closing basis, which would be, concerning for the Bitcoin laws here, as that would actually be a break of the range at 59,400. But here's the thing. It is going to be the weekly closure for CME later today. Again, anything that happens between now and PPI reads a little bit later today is probably not super relevant. In fact, probably not going to be getting much of a move at all. But I want to return back to the weekly HPDR, because we do have yet another bing and bong setup right here. Bitcoin essentially using the median to kind of sell off to start off this week. And where has it found its low? It's found its low around Mr. Bong at the 38.2 level right there. So ultimately, what does this tell us about current price action? Nothing significant has happened. Nothing significant has happened in terms of correlating to or revealing the overall direction. In this case, until Bitcoin really is, coming down and closing below these regions, or at least on the daily coming down below and closing below 59,400, I don't really see anything new here. And as we referred to in the derp zone, every $100 move makes people think Bitcoin is going to go to $100,000 next, or down to $20,000 next. It is just that thing. But I always want to bring back and focus on these statistics over here, because look, statistics are not always going to be right. More often than not, they are going to be right. That's why we like to pay attention to them, especially on this channel. And I want to paint a picture here first and foremost. In fact, actually, let's start off over on this screen. This is an analysis of every time that we've seen green September for Bitcoin, a green September for Bitcoin, meaning that Bitcoin closed positively from the open to close in the month of September, which is one of the lowest, in fact, the lowest probability month to close positively. It's only happened 5 times in Bitcoin's history. Every one of those 5 times that we've seen a green September, Bitcoin has gone on to close a positive fourth quarter, a decently positive fourth quarter as well, I should add. And actually, I've gone through the liberty here to already get rid of these outliers, which is why you're not seeing the average returns for 2013 or 2011, because they were like multiple hundreds % returned. As you can see, the rest of them are not as much. And even then, the average return is about 51.5%, which I do think is rather interesting here. Again, this would be for the fourth quarter. So putting that into perspective, when we look at Bitcoin, bringing back my chart, which chart? We can do it on this chart right here. you know, Bitcoin already opened up the month of October red, you know, more than likely it is an opportunity. Is it guaranteed to be an opportunity? No, there are no guarantees. There are no certainties. There are only probabilities. And as I forget who said this to me, it was very early on in my life. Maybe it was my father. Maybe I just like read it in a book, or maybe I just heard it from like some random place. But I remember very vividly, and I always remember this. It was very early on in my life, like maybe 10 or 11 years old. Someone told me the smartest people, the most successful people in life think in terms of probabilities, not certainties. And so that is why that is one of the motivations on this channel, just kind of focusing on this sort of data. So, you know, with October already being red, you know, we do expect the fourth quarter to very likely close green. Again, not guaranteed, but very likely. And that's how I like to kind of base my overall directional thesis on. Not that that's actually like a trading thesis, which I think, you know, that's just YouTube bullshit really. But going back into it, you know, probably an opportunity here if that's anything to go off of. On top of that, what we saw is also very interesting here, is that on average, the low of October has come in around basically day number 10. Technically speaking, it's 9.615. So obviously we can't have like a 9.5 day. So we just round up to 10 there. And well, yesterday was day number 10, and Bitcoin actually did make a new low on day number 10. Not a new closing low, to be fair. Not a new closing low, yes, it was a new closing low on CME. Was it on spot price action? Yes, it was as well. Okay, so it was a new closing low and a new wick low as well. Fair enough. But yeah, you know, coming around day number 10, you know, that is what we do expect on average. Yes, in macro uptrends, we have seen that come in a little bit earlier within the month, and on macro downtrends a little bit later. So, you know, could very easily have argued that maybe this is not going to be the one. But again, on average, we expect Bitcoin October highs to come in during the last week of the month, usually after the third week and before the end of the month. So we're still not there. Still another 10 days minimum before we kind of expect that to come in again on average. And that's pretty consistent whether Bitcoin is macro bullish or macro bearish, which I also thought was rather interesting. So, you know, with nothing really happening yesterday to today, I don't really have any reason to change my overall view on this market. This market, or what I'm looking at here, is still probably Bitcoin putting in a low. Yes, can definitely be wrong on that, but I'm trying to explain my sort of thought processes here along with the supporting data, and then you can do whatever the fuck you want with that. I mean, it's up to you at the end of the day. I'm not going to be making the trades for you. But as I parse through the rest of my notes here, I do want to once again look at our weekly stochastic oscillator, because it is closing today for Bitcoin on CME, and realize that it is still headed to the upside, assuming Bitcoin closes above $55,000 today. Okay. We've seen crazier things than a $5,000 dumbola, or a little bit more than $5,000 dumbola before end of day. But as of right now, you know, likely to remain with momentum to the upside, at least for another week. Obviously, we'll see what that pivot turns into coming in on Monday's open. Daily time frame is still looking like a reset right here. Will turn back up if today closes above 62,850. That'd actually be very, very interesting if Bitcoin were to close above that number, probably catalyzed by the event later today, because what do you know? We do see one of these trendline regressions coming in from the June lows, the September lows, and potentially these October lows right here, again, coming in literally on the average of kind of the day that we expect them to come in around. So, you know, everything that we've seen thus far on price action is incorporated within the data. So while, you know, I don't think, I mean, Bitcoin coming down another couple percent yesterday was very, very bad, very bad. But you know, my point is that nothing's really changed here. And if you've been paying attention to this content, this is not to be unexpected. Now, the timing of this is always difficult, of course. And of course, when we look at this in hindsight, it's going to be probably obvious. But again, you know, what I said yesterday is kind of what I say today as well. It's like you start to develop a deep respect for the people who were in this asset, you know, way back when over here, because there was a lot of 6, 7, 8, 10-month periods of basically sideways and boring as all fuck, multiple times in Bitcoin's history, where, you know, it would be very easy to say, oh my God, the trend is shifting. And and we're fucked. But again, seasonality here and everything else in mind, all these statistics that we looked at, I don't have a reason to believe that Bitcoin is breaking down just yet. Can it happen? Yes, absolutely. Anything is possible. But in terms of probability, I think that this is still more probable. But of course, as we went over in yesterday's video, and as we'll go over in today's video again, where would I consider Bitcoin wrecked beyond repair, or at least, very likely to come down significantly further? Well, at this point, a closure below yesterday's low, or even a closure below 59,400 would very likely do it for me. At this point, again, on CME very specifically, if you see a closure below 59.4, okay. Yeah, we're going to see this thing come down. We're going to see it come down a lot more, most likely. But until then, digging in its heels sideways here, and especially if Bitcoin were to pop back up and close today above even 61,500, or especially meet that daily momentum pivot on CME at 62, I think it was 8 or so. That's going to just look like another higher low in what is a reversing market on the daily here. So I suppose, again, we're kind of in waiting mode until today's later event. That will be the catalyst and the excuse for price action to move. And then we'll come back at it tomorrow. In fact, tomorrow is going to be a very, very fun day because I believe Fibbo Swanee is going to be joining back in. So looking forward to that. And as always, I want to wish you the best of the best. It's been a nice little Friday morning here. A very lackluster and boring week yet again, to be honest. I mean, it is what it is, man, but I continue to do these videos because it's a daily ritual, so my day ain't complete without it. So I'll sign off on that note, wishing you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.